And now, it is my great pleasure to welcome the Rev Judith Elia with us. We're talking about loving the living earth. The earth is our mother. Let's celebrate International Women's Day by honoring the great mother of all, whose back we walk upon and whose rivers we drink, and whose bounty fills our belly. Let us remember loving, honoring, and protecting the Mother Earth and all of her inhabitants ensures our survival and that we are all connected, an interdependent web of life. Reverend Judith. Thank you so much.
So for those of you on Zoom, I just want to say thank you for being with us this morning, wherever you are. And I really appreciate you showing up on this day when we, miss an hour of sleep and try to adjust to this thing called daylight savings time, which isn't really natural. And also on the day that we celebrate women and the feminine spirit and the capacity to nurture and this divine feminine that is in every single one of us, male and female, whatever color of our skin, wherever we live, we can draw on this quality that is connected to love at its very core. One of the things that I've been really enjoying lately are these videos of the animal world, where there's, a bear that adopts a tiger, or there's a dog that brings home a panther, or, and then they become friends forever, and then, they have to let each other go because, the bear can't live in the backyard of someone's home, and, and then they meet each other on occasion, and there's this bond, and I've always felt that bond, I've always had this connection, and I know some of you are nodding, and you have too. Maybe it was just a time you were in the woods and you knew that this deer was looking at you, and that you were telegraphing to the deer that I will not harm you, and I love you. And there was a moment when your eyes met the deer, and they went off. And I have my whole life felt this kinship with nature and loved the earth, just loved it, would ride my horse up and stand on her back and go into this oak tree and just felt the embrace of the oak tree, that it was talking to me, that it was nurturing me, that it was helping me with my life. I was very happy to read years later when I found out about Howard Thurman. How many of you know who Howard Thurman is? So I didn't either, even though I went to graduate school in world religions and, I'm a very well-read person. I was shocked to realize that I'd never heard about Howard Thurman. And I first heard his name from Matthew Fox here in Melbourne. We had brought him here years ago, Reverend Beth and I, to do a weekend at Unity of Melbourne. And he said, take me to see Howard Thurman's home. And I was like, who's that? He looked at me like I'd fallen off, the planet, or, I was alien in some way. You don't know who Howard Thurman is? Like, he's your homeboy. Like, he's your soul friend. And I go, who is he? He goes, well, you need to look that up. And so I looked up Howard Thurman, and I was just completely amazed that this person was like the first African-American man to become the dean of a major university, that he was this incredible human that transcended his time. And actually, Eleanor Roosevelt funded him to take a interfaith contingent of people to the East. And they met Gandhi, and they traveled through a lot of different countries to connect with the world indigenous cultures, but also with the differing faiths that had developed in those countries, in the turn of the last century and in the roaring 20s. And he was the man that founded the first church for the fellowship of all people, also funded by the Roosevelts, where they had intentionally a black and a white minister. And to this day, they teach in their Sunday schools, Native American Sunday school and African spirituality and, Baha'i Day. And, they have a very expansive consciousness about the interconnection between the indigenous world, the first people, their understanding of nature, and the development of religion, which I have come to believe that the development of religion, because of the political nature, especially in the Christian tradition, with which entire civilizations were colonized, our own incredible disrespect for Native Americans, the way that we rewrote history so that Columbus discovered America when there were people here that had incredible reverence for the earth and also understood things that we are just coming to understand. One of the funniest things for me, I think, in my whole life has been people who are like, science, it's about the science. When I really realized at a young age that this thing they called silence, that too, this thing called science, oh my God, I can't even say it. Science that silenced the natural world and that silenced the understanding that we are more than the physical. And this thing called science, which coupled with the political reality of oil and power and the pharmaceutical medicine and the dumbing down of our medical system here in this country, and banned herbology and oppressed the wisdom of the indigenous people in this country, who still live mostly on reservations, which are a form of concentration camps, in the worst places, because we've banished them from their homes, which we continue to do all over the world. And part of what this Western view of science is that the only thing that's determinable is what is observable. That facts come from what's observable. Well, that would discount a lot of who we are, wouldn't it? It would discount love. It would discount energy. It would discount the fundamentals of the universe. And what we're learning from new physics, which is really very old. One of my teachers, Basil Braveheart, he's in his 90s now. He's a boarding school survivor. He's a Korean War veteran. He is a Lakota elder. And he is an amazing consciousness of psychology and Jungian analysis. And he was a supervisor and administrator of a school system. He's had a lot of different jobs, but he's also a recovering addict and someone who treats people with PTSD through his native teachings now, combined with his understanding of psychology. And one of the things that he talks about in his newest book, Awakening to the Sacred, is how his grandmother Lucy understood new physics. How a lot of quantum physics is in the wisdom of indigenous culture. For example, your perception of reality and what you believe about reality actually affects the outcome of science. A long time ago, I asked my teacher, Zhongxian Wu, from China, an aeronautical engineer, much younger than I am, one of the many young people who came into this world with a brilliant consciousness. And he was, doing a weekend of Qigong and Tai Chi, and I asked him if he would want to watch this movie, one of those new age movies about new physics. And he humbly sat through the whole thing And then I said, Master Wu, what did you think about it? He said, it's just science. Like, we learned it like in 6th grade. And I realized that our American institutions and our version of reality is totally different and backwards. And that is why we have such a hard time connecting with nature, because nature is vibrational. In the Lakota tradition, a rainbow, the idea, he had to explain it to his grandmother over and over again, the idea that there would be a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, like, what even is that? Like, gold is just a rock. Like, she couldn't understand why that was a positive image. And he tried to explain it to her, because in their culture, the symbol of a rainbow is a symbol of light and water and fire. It's like God's blessing upon the earth is the natural elements, what we call the natural elements. And God in Lakota is not this being, that we say, the great spirit. Like, that is really not a part of their culture. God in Lakota is Daku Wakan Skaska. Something, because you can't really say what it is. The Tao that can be spoken is not the Tao. So that which can't be named, Daku Wakan Skaska, there's something, and it's sacred, and it's moving us. And it's always in movement. When I was in Palestine, the very first time, about almost 3 years ago, right after the war started there, which is now genocide that continues to escalate as we're distracted, looking at the next war in Iran, and so things are really escalating in the West Bank and in Gaza as we speak. I was on a call in Jerusalem and all parts of the West Bank with folks this week, and you could hear the bombs, you could feel the shaking as we were praying, and there's nothing on our news about that, nothing that is bringing our awareness to our U.S. made in America bombs dropping on not just people, on camels and sheep, and destroying entire olive groves and making craters of toxic chemicals from our bombs and little mini bombs that are going to go off and kill children. We are doing that now all over the world. And we've been doing it for generations because of this belief in science, this belief that only what we observe is what's true, that might makes right, that if I have more power than you through my money, I can kill anything that gets in my way with no remorse, because it's not alive, which we know is a lie, because we know the earth itself is alive. And without it, we die. If you can't get food from the earth, you die. And you can make fake food. But look at us in America. It's killing us. I currently work in a bakery and sometimes in the produce department and other parts of the store, but when I look at the ingredients, like sometimes I'll watch people come into the bakery and they'll turn over a cookie and go, "It takes 6 ingredients to make a cookie." What are these things? They get so mad, and rightfully so, because it hurts us. Our disconnection from even our food and where it comes from You know, the old McDonald's joke about, hamburgers growing hamburger trees or whatever it is, yeah. I mean, this disconnect that commercial agriculture and commercial, ways that we destroy the relationships between animals on this earth, and the way that we pump them with chemicals to destroy them or make them the way we want them to and think that that's going to be healthy for us, it's all connected. We in the USA are the greatest polluters. That is a fact. Scientifically, we can prove it. It's a fact because we deplete the resources of this earth everywhere we go for our own profit, and we use the resources ourselves personally at such a greater amount than anywhere else on the earth. And that our carbon footprint is the greatest, and we also, our military-industrial complex, and that's what we're going to talk about today in the movie and with Abby Martin, is the Earth's enemy. And it's hard to underestimate the result of what we've done to the Earth through these endless wars that we try to sell as good. Like even now, we're trying to sell the Iran war as a holy war. Like there are these crazy psychopathic people who really believe that Jesus is going to come back if we destroy the mosque in Jerusalem, one of the holiest places on the earth to the Muslim people, and then rebuild the temple of Judah. Like Jesus would be all about that, right? The one who said, like, love your neighbor as yourself, bless those that curse you, love your enemies. Like that could be anything about him. This Palestinian Jew, Jesus, who would look at the little cabal, not unsimilar to Netanyahu and his band of thugs, and say, you thick-necked vipers, you blind guides, and he would call them out, overturn the money changers in the temple, whip them into submission. Not a pacifist, not a weak guy, someone with incredible moral courage, with a moral core. And we were talking about before, early on when people were arriving, that there are very few ministers in the world that will be giving you this message because they don't want to lose their donors. Because there are so many wealthy donors who are either Zionist or who have some kind of opinion about the superiority of whiteness, Jewishness, or just the West. And it's so not true. I mean, I receive texts all the time from friends all over the world, and I think that people who are experiencing what they are experiencing right now in Jordan and Israel and Palestine are some of the most elevated consciousnesses of people I have ever known, who have no hatred in their hearts, even though they have been, completely oppressed and disrespected and minimized, and you don't seem to even have any kind of caring about them in our news. This is International Women's Day, and there were little girls in an elementary school in Iran intentionally bombed. And then as their families and workers from hospitals, aid workers, went in to retrieve them, they bombed it again. They did a double tap bomb on an elementary school, killing upwards of 170 people, many of whom were little girls, ages 7 to 12. And you didn't even see it on our news. It wasn't even a blip. Like, little girls in Iran don't matter. And they do matter. and little girls all over the world that this Epstein regime has been raping, mutilating, killing, oppressing, and all that we're doing right now to distract ourselves from that is a heinous crime against little girls. It's a heinous crime against humanity. And as mothers, as lovers of this earth, on every level, think about it. Think about hundreds and thousands of little girls who have died for no reason all over this world. Whether it was in Iraq, which we never got to see it, because it was all shock and awe. It was all theater. It was all oil. We know people that served in Iraq, and they've told us the truth about it. And we know from people like Chris Hedges, who quit his job at the New York Times as the Middle Eastern bureau chief because they would not let him publish the truth. There were never any weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and there are not any weapons of mass destruction in Iran. That's because Iran has a moral core. They have a fatwa, which means a rule against having a nuclear weapon. Because who in their right mind would? Right? So I think I'll leave you with just a sweet story. So when I was in Palestine the first time, a little group of hyenas were brought to the Palestine Institute for Biodiversity and Sustainability because their mother had been killed for poachers for her beautiful fur that's just incredible. It's like stripes and polka dots, and it's just really beautiful. And also they believe certain parts of a hyena's body are medicinal, so they kill them. So there are these little, tiny, little hyenas. And all of these young people that work at the Institute, some of them who are mammalian biologists with, earning their PhDs, and some just from, all age groups, but, young adults, and, mothering the hyenas. And so when I got there, they were a little older, and we weren't holding them and bottle feeding them anymore, but they loved people, and especially women. And I felt this incredible connection to these hyenas. And people would say, hyenas, because of the Disney view, oh, they're evil, But I had an amazing connection with them. And I have my last view of my experience with these two hyena sisters, where at night I would walk up and after I, checked their water and everything, and they would just look at me, until they couldn't see me any longer. And I would look back at them, and I felt this exchange, like maybe some of you have felt this exchange with your dogs or your cats or your pets, this incredible love they look at you with, and this incredible energy they send to you that is so life-giving. My native elder, Basil, says that, when you walk through a door with some big dog like a golden retriever, like it's 500 at least, megahertz of love coming your way, like it's like a machine, And I felt that from these hyenas. The last time I saw them, I was just pouring my love out at them, and they were just pouring their love out at me in gratitude for what we had shared. And so I think that's possible for us. We're learning that we can even measure it with trees, that when we touch trees, trees give us their energy. But if we don't touch them, they don't. And if you are able to go out in a forest and commune with trees, it actually does things that we can now see are beneficial, like it improves your oxygen level in your blood. It reduces your blood pressure in just a 15-minute walk in the woods, you know? So I want you to close your eyes now and feel your feet on the ground. And know that you are inextricably linked to this earth. It's gravity. It's pulling you to itself. You are a part of the living, breathing, Holy Mother Earth. And it's nurturing you right now. Feel that energy coming into your legs, into your belly, all the way up your legs, all the way up your torso, expanding into your heart, nourishing your arms and tingling in your fingertips and toes. Feel that energy as it comes up into your brain, into your jaw, into your ears, and all the way up to that little soft spot on the top of your head and out the top of your head. And as you feel that energy, know also that this earth is spinning in space. And you can feel the energy that comes down into that little soft spot in your head from the stars and the moon and all the planets. It's always energizing you. And now feel your connection that overflows, that energy that's coming down, the energy that's coming up, overflows your heart. And with all your love, send that out to the earth, to the people, to the animals, to the plants, to the planetary bodies, to everything you're connected to, without which you would die. Without water, you would die. Without air, you would die. Without fire, you would be so cold. And without this earth energy, you would not be fed. So bless it. Send out little rays of golden light all over the earth. And say, we love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. May all beings be well and happy. Say that softly. May all beings be well and happy. One more time. May all beings be well and happy. Thank you.